Hi, Dr. Dara here, Truth with Dr. Dara. Just going to give it a second to see who pops in and who all is going to be on with us today. We are 45 days to the end of the year, which is quite exciting if you think about it. So at the end, we're going to be talking about the pre-shift challenge that we're going to do, 45 days. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started again. This is Dr. Dara, Truth with Dr. Dara. Hi, Sue, great to see you. And we are going to talk about today how to keep your happy despite the challenges of the holiday season. Because oftentimes people think that the holidays mean bliss and excitement, and you turn the TV on and you see the commercials of all the families sitting around the table and everybody getting along and being so happy. And you see the Publix commercial with the little salt and pepper shaker, FYI I have not seen yet. And you see all the bliss, and the thought is that everybody's supposed to be happy and joyous and free of stress and have a lot of money to get all the gifts and the presents, and it's supposed to be with ease. And I think that's a lot of times where we get very jammed up is the idea of thinking that it's supposed to be this perfect thing when really it's just our family and our lives on another day of expressing or experiencing gratitude. So I'm going to dive into the first question, and if you have questions, just go ahead and write it on, I got my hands the right way, on the bottom of the screen, and I will do my best to scroll down, and if I don't get it, I don't know how you can yell at me from where you're at, but try. Put it in capital letters. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. And if you guys have questions, like I said, just put it down here on the bottom. So the first question is, how can I come back happy at dinner after I have a hiccup or disengagement? I think what that means is I find my family challenging, and there's some discrepancies. Maybe they're talking about politics or different things that are going on, and then you're supposed to go and sit at the table and just be all excited and be there. And it could be a challenging thing, especially if it's around food. Oftentimes, people take advantage of the alcohol that's there, which isn't so optimal either, because that's not exactly the way to cope with it either. But really what I think is most important is that before you even venture into the holidays on a day like today, is to set your intention. Be very clear with what it is that you want your holiday season to look like. So let's just hone in more on next week with Thanksgiving. What do you want your Thanksgiving to look like? What would it feel like after you've already had Thanksgiving? And who would you enjoy being with? What would your ideal Thanksgiving look like? And from there, drawing that picture is going to automatically pull your energy of where you want. So if there's been times when there's been discordance or not having good relationships or conversations during family functions, I want you to think how you would like for it to be, what you would like for it to look like, and how you would feel during these conversations. See yourself talking with your siblings or people in your family and being there, but their words or the things that you guys are talking about not permeating, not getting through, like you're in your bubble, you're in your own bubble, and almost like a bobblehead where you're just hearing them and you're responding, but it's just not getting in. It's not soaking in. It doesn't go through the barrier. And if that's how you want to see yourself, then that's what's going to happen, so that when you are talking to them, you're not feeling the same type of connection or emotional reactiveness as you have in the past. So if there is a conversation that is less than pleasant and then it's time to sit at the table, I think it's also fair game that you don't have to fake it, right? I don't really understand why for 30 seconds you're supposed to seem like this perfect family eating all joyously when, just before that, somebody was being completely rude. I think communication is critical, and perhaps these resentments wouldn't continue to build up if there was this communication. And what if you already know that there might be some conflict, for you to go ahead and address it ahead of time? I think oftentimes families just think we just won't discuss it, and as long as we're not discussing it, then it's not happening. So I suggest that you go ahead and you take a look and you talk to the players before the game even starts, so you know exactly, play by play, what you want it to look like. So great question, thank you. I think that's something for a lot of people, and those of us that are sitting here right now saying, no, that doesn't happen, we all get along. I don't know, I might call bullshit on that one, because oftentimes you can't help it. There's just so many personalities that are there, and things do come up. All right, next question. So many good ones. I love my boyfriend. I love my boyfriend, and his family is dysfunctional, aka they yell and they're very nasty to each other. And it always ends in some type of dramatic ending and people not liking each other. And I feel completely nauseated. I literally feel that I'm afraid I'm going to lose my relationship if I tell him what I really think. And my response to that, what comes to mind to me, is going back again to communication and talking with them beforehand, and also explaining to them what kind of communication that you do like and what you feel like when that happens. So that way he can know how to be of best support to you when that is going on. Because if you're there and you don't say anything and then it's building up and then you go back home afterwards and you let him know where you're at, that's really not even fair to him to know how he can best be a support to you if you don't even let him know that you had all these challenges when you were there, and then at the end of the night you unload on him. It's putting strain on your relationship, and he doesn't mean that he's his family. I think the big question would be, is he the one that's involved in the family dramatics, or is he pretty out of the loop with it? And maybe you could be a support to him. I'm thinking that if he's not involved in it, he's just as mortified about it as you are. He's just gotten numb to it. So how can you two work as a team is going to be most important with your collaboration and your communication. So great question. Thank you. Next one. Wow, I hate the holidays. It's often a reminder of what I don't have. It keeps me feeling alone, and it reminds me of the family that I don't have. And I often have an increase in depression and anxiety leading into it, and it puts me in a dark place. What can I do to get out of it? Well, I don't think it's so much about what to do to get out of it, because reality is reality. And I think right now would be a great opportunity for us to squash this idea or this expectation that holidays have to be so perfect, and lead up into it being this blissful thing. It is what it is. And it's important to acknowledge where you're at and also find other people that are experiencing the same thing as you are and sharing that, because you're not alone. I mean, just right now there's people here with us and there's more people who will be joining us, and I see someone saying, Madi, hello, I can relate. What if you don't get along with his family? Well, again, I think that's really important to discuss before and ahead of time, and I'm going to go really bold with it. Well, maybe you don't need to go there. Maybe you need to alternate and go every other year, or set a period of time and not go for the whole day. That's very important around holidays, whether you're experiencing family discord or you're experiencing loneliness, is having a plan, not just saying, oh, I'll just see what I feel like on Thursday on Thanksgiving. Well, if you're just seeing what you feel like, you're going to turn on the Macy's parade, and the next thing you know, you're going to be 7 gallons under of ice cream or 2 pints of vodka into it in sadness, and wake up the next day in an even bigger low. So let's plan it ahead of time. I mean, Thanksgiving can be Thanksgiving. I know not a lot of things are open, but there are things open. Maybe there's ways that you can contribute or be involved. Go volunteer at the soup kitchen or at another organization, or team up with some other friends and have a friends, what do they call it? Not a friends anniversary, a Friendsgiving, and do something different. So I'm thinking creativity and communication are really important here. So thank you for the great question. If you don't get along with them, maybe you just don't go this year, or you come up with a different plan, or you go for an hour, and you definitely discuss it before you even go, so that you have a backup plan. You want an out. You want to be able to know what when you say to him, when you say gobble gobble, that's code for it's time to go, and he's on your side, and you two gobble on out of there. So again, great question. And then coming back to the other one about feeling the depression and the sadness and being in this black hole, let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with a plan ahead of time. It's a great time to start thinking about that and doing it. It would be just the same way. I mean, if tomorrow you don't just wake up, I mean, sometimes we do, and say, oh, well, what am I going to do today? You make some plans. You have a set intention of what you want it to look like. And if you are feeling like you're in a black hole, well, what would it look like to not be in a black hole? And would it be okay for you to not be in a black hole? Because oftentimes what happens is we kind of get lost in the idea of just moping around through the holidays. If I wasn't moping around, what would it look like? And what would there be for me to do? So that's something that's real important to check into. Would I be okay if I wasn't sad during the holidays? Would that mean I might experience more loneliness, or then I might have to talk or deal and really see what things are from a different level? So great question. And again, if you guys have any questions, for those of you who are just joining, go ahead and put it right here at the bottom. And I'm scrolling down periodically so I can see the messages and answer them. And moving on to the next one, I have a food-oriented family, and when I go there, there's just mounds and mounds of food, and it is always having food, and it's impossible to be present and enjoy, because the truth of the matter is that I overeat. I compulsively overeat, have an eating disorder. So it's questionable whether it's disordered eating or eating disorder, but I overeat. And so when I go, I leave, and I'm so upset, and I'm so guilty and mad with myself because I fell into the trap yet again. I sit around the food, and I eat, and I eat, and I eat, and I would like for this year to be different. So the first thing that comes to mind for me, again, is to plan. Plan, plan, plan. If you know what you're going into, then plan it ahead and walk it through as if you've already been there for the day. Think about what you are going to eat. Think about where you're going to sit. If you do not want to continue to eat the food, well, don't sit in front of it. And again, communication comes to mind for me, because talking with other people that are there, maybe if you have the ability to communicate that with your family and say, I would prefer for us to put the food away when we are done eating rather than sit in front of it. A lot of families, that's not the case. The food continues, and people continue to push you, but already have it planned out. Maybe bring your own food, right? If you had a peanut allergy and there was peanut brittle, you clearly would not just go and eat it. You would take a stance and you would say, I can't eat that, because if not, I will end up in the hospital. Or maybe you'll choose to eat it so you can leave to go to the hospital. I don't know. That would be a little drastic. But you would take a stance and you wouldn't engage in it. So think about it in that capacity, that you eating that food is going to have that strong of a reaction. And if you are allergic to it, you wouldn't do it. And clearly you are allergic to it. So setting provisions and making guidelines so that isn't the experience that you have. Maybe invite a buddy to go with you. Bring somebody. Bring a buffer. Bring a buffer so you have somebody to talk to. And if somebody can't go with you, set up a plan with somebody who's not there for accountability. And once again, maybe you don't go all day. Maybe you just go for an hour, and you let people know ahead of time, I am coming from 1 to 2, and afterwards I'm going to volunteer, so I'm not going to be able to stay all day. But if you just stay in front of the food, guess what? You're going to continue to eat. That's just torture to keep it in front of you if you're not able to do it. Food is a language of love in our family, and it's crazy distracting. Yes, of course. And many families, too, food is the way that people express their love, and you're not getting their intention unless you're eating. And so we want to redefine what that language of love looks like, and really ask yourself what your language with food is. I call it food needs. What is your language, and how do you speak through your food? My family has a ton of food and drink, too. How do you nicely say no? They're very persistent. I get that. It can be really hard. I think you just say no. You just say no, and if they can't respect it, then you're just not going to be able to stay. Perhaps that would be something to address ahead of time. Because once again, Debbie, if they knew that if you ate the peanut brittle, you were going to go into epileptic shock, they would not be giving you a piece of brittle. And some families still might say, just try a little bit, but really set it ahead of what you're going to do. Or maybe the fact is, you don't go this year. There's a different plan for you to do. Or maybe you go after dinner. You decide that you're going to go, or before dinner. I'm going to come by between 1 and 3, and I'm not going to be staying for mealtime today. I hope that helps, and those are some good suggestions, because I know that this affects so many people, and it can be very, very challenging. Which leads me into just kind of reviewing the big question. How do I keep my happy despite the difference this time of year? Feeling increased anxiety, feeling increased sadness when I'm focusing on the gratitude that I have is going to increase it. If I focus more of what I do like and what I do have, then it's going to give me more energy and more fuel towards what I do want. So keeping that in mind. So communicating with people about what you want and where you want to go and how they can help you is critical. Also, setting a plan is good, and inviting somebody to go along with you and talking through these things, because if you talk about it, then it can't not happen in a different way. Which also leads me, if we are 45 days to 2019. Can you believe it? I really can't. I know it kind of makes me want to like go whoop, whoop. And I talked about it this week in a post. There's three kinds of people that are going on here. There's one that have run the marathon and they sprinted to the end and they're going back to do some more laps. And then there's a second kind of person who is already like seeing the finish line, but is sprinting so hard and they just feels like they can never get there. And then there's another person who has who's done it and they're just laying out flat and they've called it a year. So basically, you have somebody who's already done it and is still doing laps and is still in it to win it, to get ready and to make next year to be even better. Then there's somebody who is just can't get ahead of themselves and doesn't even know how they're going to get to the 2019 bell. And then there's the other person who is there and still wants to, and then just calls it quits. Just calls it quits. Like rushed and was a sprinter, wasn't a marathoner. So this is what I propose. I propose a 40-day pre-shift challenge. What can you do to start your year off already ahead? Because by the time most people get to January 1st, they're already into January and February before they're even making things happen. So what if we can make things happen before it even happens? A pre-shift challenge. So what I want you to do is to make sure that you are a part of my private group and you are part of my shift club. So you're going to get in there and join, and every day you are going to receive a challenge. And with that, you've got to participate. So if we try some of these things that we thought we would never try, then who knows what's possible to try for next year. So if you're ready to make some shifts, get into my private group, The Truth with Dr. Dara, join. Every day I'm going to post a challenge for us to take on and give me your feedback. And we're going to go from there. And so Thanksgiving is happening. The holidays are happening. We're making the most of the year that we're in now. And we're already pre-shifting ourselves and getting ready for the new year. Thanks for tuning in. And I will look forward to seeing you again. Go ahead and post any more questions that you have. And I will be sure to get back with you and answer them as best